Hello, and I would like to welcome today Dr. Ludmila Praslova, who's a professor of psychology and the director of research, graduate programs, organizational psychology at Vanguard University of Southern California. Hello, Ludmila. It's so great to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Prina.
Oh, you're welcome. I want to say a little bit more about you. Ludmila's areas of expertise include organizational culture assessment and change, inclusive leadership, and facilitating justice and civility in organizations. Ludmila, you do a lot. You've got lots of expertise. One of the things that I'd really like to talk to you about today is this new wave of leadership and the end of what we're going to call loudership. I have a question for you. From your perspective, how has COVID changed our workplaces?
Oh my goodness, how we did not change it.
Yeah.
But in general, we're going through the global cultural change.
Yes.
It's going to take some time to really, for us to see the full effect of what is happening. But in the workplace, it's manifesting in accelerating the trend that was there because people and companies were already moving towards remote work. But now this trend is much more pronounced and accelerated. And in a few weeks, everyone was working remotely. Well, obviously with the exception of some specific occupations, but a lot of knowledge workers ended up working remotely. And those who are in the front line, there are change dynamics as well with social distancing, with different ways management occurs even in those settings. So it's really a global change in the workplace culture, which means we need different skills, different mindsets, and that includes everyone. It includes people who are doing everything from data processing to management to highest level leadership in organizations.
Question for you. How has the need for leadership changed, and how has leadership as a role changed as well now, thanks to all of the things that you've just mentioned, Ludmila?
Well, again, it will take some time to for it to fully play out, but let's just do a little mental experiment. So
Okay.
just close your eyes
Yep.
and envision a military leader.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now envision a leader in the field of early childhood education.
Very different.
Yes, and the last one,
Okay.
envision a thought leader.
Ooh. Now that's a new thing for me to even consider. What is a thought leader, Ludmila?
Well, if we're thinking about people who are able to come up with ideas and influence us at a distance, people who come up with theories that we follow in management, for
Yes.
example, we don't know them personally, but they influence us quite strongly.
Yes.
So those are very different types of leadership, as you probably felt in whatever came to your mind.
Completely.
So if we now think about a business leader,
Yeah.
which one the traditional business leader is close to?
Right. Okay. That's a really interesting one. A traditional corporate leader, I think, may be a mix of all of the few. So if I was thinking about a military leader, it's very command and control. If it's an educational leader, it's very much bring people on the journey with you. And then a thought leader is this innovator, it's this influencer, it's this person that's someone that you want to, that you are really inspired by.
Exactly. So if we think about this, for a very long time, business models were influenced by military leadership. And we're even using this kind of forceful language. We're driving change and we are pushing for our goals.
Yes.
And that's a strong undercurrent. But then we also have other undercurrents in business leadership, and management models don't change very quickly. We still are influenced by early 20th century models from big factories where managers would walk around and tell people what to do. So that was also a pretty significant element. Now we can't do that anymore. So the leadership really changes with a much higher resemblance to thought leadership, because it is something that's not immediate, we're not in the presence of each other. So we're influencing, we're inspiring, we're supporting people, but we're doing this at a distance. So it requires a very different skill than managing by presence and just projecting forcefulness when you're there. It's very hard to use this old-fashioned idea of charisma. And there's a very new way of still inspiring people, but it's done in the form of video, it's done in the form of writing, and it definitely is more of a high-level leadership and thought leadership rather than you do this, you do that, you go to that corner.
Completely so, Ludmila. You make a really, really good point in relation to the way that leadership has completely just changed because it's had to, thanks to our new ways of working. A lot of my clients are still working from home, and you know, the majority of them are leaders. And you know, we talk a lot about distance leadership and how to communicate differently now as a result, because we're communicating through video, more so through writing, through the form of email now also, rather than, you know, you could just go to someone's desk originally and just talk to them verbally, whereas now things have really, really changed. So can you expand a little bit more on the kind of new skills that are needed for this kind of distance leadership, thought leadership? It's a whole mix of all of the above leadership models that you mentioned, Ludmila.
Right. So again, we still need to plan, but planning is much more complex because we have so much more unpredictability. A lot of plans are now contingent. If this, we do that. If this, we do that. So our planning becomes much more flexible. We need to become much more flexible, and not everyone is comfortable really with this kind of openness and open-ended work. And other than just changing the nature of work and increasing complexity, there's also this paradox in that we might not be physically present with people. However, people need support and inspiration and understanding and empathy. So we need to be able more than ever pull on those particular strengths and do it without the immediate physical contact, which is possible, but it's a very different skill that leaders need to learn. And it requires listening. It's not just one-way communication. So you need to be able to do two-way communication where people feel heard, understood, and listened to. And we need to do it in a remote situation. It doesn't necessarily mean we can't do it. We just need to find a medium that works, whether it's a video or a phone or writing. The old-fashioned email works just fine. For
Yes.
some people, old-fashioned phone call. So whatever works in the particular combination of individuals, but we need to be intentional about it in a different way than we were just, passing each other in the hallway. And we need to think about this. We need to plan for this, and really, really, really pay attention to what people are saying, reflecting it back, and really making people feel that they're heard and valued, and their input is appreciated, because everyone really is craving empathy and connection, even though we're not doing it through physical presence.
Big time. There's a real focus on a new, different style kind of leadership. And one of the many conversations I'm having with a lot of my coaching clients, especially, is this form of assertive communication. So you're still the leader. You still have to communicate assertively. Yes, now you may have to have difficult conversations or potentially even performance conversations online, which is a whole different ball game. So a new skill set with new communication skills are so vital in this new world.
Absolutely. And again, we need to stress the two-way communication,
Yeah.
because just communicating in one direction, that's what the old book LOUDERSHIP is all. Well, it's not all, it's from 14, but it's not, that just came out, but it was a really kind of the ironic representation of a bad leader, and unfortunately pretty accurate representation of a narcissistic leader that just really super self-focused and just kind of drives all over just doing whatever they want. Well,
Yeah.
that wasn't good back then when
No.
the book came out. It actually might have been 10 and another edition 14. So it's something that came a few years ago, but it's something that really is not going to work in this world, because it's complex and things are very highly consequential. So we need to be really very considerate of each step we take, and pay attention to results of what we do, and pay attention to results that will be produced by the systems that were set up.
Yeah, so play within the systems, the protocols that we have within the workplace, really enhance your communication skills. There's a big focus on listening as well, advocating for your team. So for leaders, they're not only managing down, they're also finding a lot of the conversations that I'm having is that they're having to manage up far more as well, because of the fact that they're distanced from the people that they report to. So their communication skills are even heightened in this respect. So the old style of command control, military leadership, or LOUDERSHIP as we call it, has just gone by. Yeah.
Not going to work. And it's unlikely that it's going to come back, because obviously things will go to maybe some hybrid on
Yeah.
what it is now, on what it is before, but it's highly unlikely it will go to what it was before. So I think all of us just have a lot of learning to do. So just the very ability to continuously learn is something that will need increasingly.
Fascinating. Ludmila, so how should leaders or aspiring leaders equip themselves for this post-pandemic world that we're going to go into?
Well, continuous learning is definitely something that is here to stay and become increasingly important, which is why coaches like you are also playing such an important role. People need to always see, okay, well, what am I doing? Let's tweak with it. This worked yesterday, but tomorrow it may not. What can I learn that will work tomorrow? And that is definitely something that is going to stay here, that the pace of change is going to continue to accelerate, and we're going to find ourselves in a pretty different reality. So that's one skill that we need to develop, that's kind of overarching for everything. And then the new way we're using our people skills. We
Yeah.
had people skills before. We were
Yeah.
using them. We were trying to be charismatic. We were trying to inspire people. We're still doing it. But I think the level of empathy, the depth of understanding, and the depth of individuation is going to be very different. It's no longer one size fits all.
Yeah.
And not just because we change, the world also is increasingly diverse. You're working with people from very different cultures with very different experiences. So again, you need to be more attuned to understanding people who are very different from you. And we've been using this golden rule, right? Treat people like you want to be treated.
Yeah.
That is not exactly something that works all that well, because in a way, in the kind of like philosophical sense, how do you want to be treated? I want to be treated the way I want to be treated.
Yeah.
So in that way, yes, but people are calling it platinum rule, and I say a titanium rule too, that we need to treat people how they want to be treated, because we all come from very different backgrounds, and trying to understand how people from different cultural backgrounds, from different experiences react to particular situations and management style, it will need to become much more differentiated. And again, that's another area where we need to keep learning.
That's a really good point. A lot of my clients, I walk through a psychometric test, and ideally not only at an individual level, but we can do this at a team level, where you get to understand the personalities and the work styles of your teams. Now, the guys who did this pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, are shining because they know the work styles of their various team members. Now that people are working in a different manner, they can really tap into the best of their capabilities and know their needs as well, and their conversations are far more richer. The other coaches that I have that I'm supporting who haven't understood their team's capability, their team's personality styles, are finding it a little bit harder, and they're having to work in a different manner, and I'm supporting them through that as well. But definitely there's a real diversity of thought, of capability, of needs as well from a team perspective. The leaders really have to tap into now to be the best leader that they can in this new world.
Absolutely. And speaking of personality styles, that's another major change, because for the longest time, especially Western world,
Yeah.
the Eastern world a little bit different, but in the Western world, extroversion was just such an important part of leadership.
Yep.
And typically, when we think of leaders, most people with Western mentality imagine someone
Alpha.
who's, yes, very alpha, very extroverted, very
Great.
forceful.
Yep.
But what people need now is someone who listens, reflects back, forms meaningful connections, not just millions connections through the network, but meaningful, deep connections and actual understanding of people, and allows people to be themselves and be creative. And those are strengths that research identifies as strengths of introverted leadership. So that's
Yeah.
another fascinating change.
And Ludmila, those skills can be learned, can't they? Because through my coaching, I really talk through and I support my clients through various skills that they can develop through time. So behavioral change can happen. If you are that extrovert, old style kind of leader, it can be changed.
No, absolutely. You can learn to pay attention to other people, to take perspective, to listen a little bit more. It takes effort. So
Yes.
you may not tell by the way I interview, but I'm very much of an introvert. But I can definitely learn to present myself in an extroverted way when I'm teaching or presenting. But it's not something that is natural. So we definitely can learn to a certain extent.
Yep.
We just don't want to fool ourselves, and we need to recharge in a way that works for us. But a lot of those personal strengths are definitely skills that can be learned.
Beautiful. Ludmila, we've talked about the various styles of leadership we started with. I love the activity that you got me to do with my eyes closed, and I hope that people listening in will do that also. We talked about the new wave of leadership and the new needs of people now that our work has changed due to the pandemic. We've also talked about how aspiring leaders can equip themselves for the post-pandemic world. I have one final question for you. What is one thing or one thing you'd like to change in the workplace?
Well, my passion has been diversity all along.
Yeah.
And different countries have done a lot different things. Companies have done a variety of training programs, hiring programs. There has been change, but I would like to see more appreciation for human difference and truly creating workplaces that not just have diversity and not just have inclusion, but they truly have belonging, and where people feel psychologically safe and are able to contribute to the maximum of their abilities, because that is what leads to individual thriving, and that is what leads to the thriving of an organization. And I hope that, however not fun some of the things we're going through are right now,
Yeah.
I hope there will be an outcome of us developing a more diverse and just truly accepting world with higher awareness of not just age, gender, race, but also disability, neurodiversity, and variety of sources of human difference that are valuable, and that bring different aspects to what organizations do. So actually, I didn't want to talk about that, but we talked about golden rule and we talked about platinum rule. I call it opal rule.
Okay.
When we're thinking about people and organizations as bringing all those different facets, and it's valuable because it has all those different colors.
Yes.
So appreciation of different aspects of what we have within us individually and within organizations. The more colors, the more valuable. So that is really the way I like to think about that.
Amazing. I think there's another conversation that we need to have in the future, Ludmila.
That's one of the articles I've been meaning to write for the last 2 months. And
Okay,
just
when you write it, let me know. I'm keen to read and I'm keen to learn more from you about that. And Ludmila, if people want to contact you, I've got all of your details. What I'm going to do is I'll put them in the show notes, and people are happy to reach out to you. They can contact you directly then.
I love it. I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. I have a pretty unique name, so
Yes.
it's going to pop up, and I'm happy to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you're well and safe in California as well. So much happening there right now.
It's luckily where I am, it's just ash, but it's literally on my patio. I could see a layer of ash. It's pretty scary. And the sky is definitely not the natural colors. I'm just thinking about people who are actually in the fire areas, and it's we all need all the help we can get.
Yeah, awful situation at the moment. Ludmila, thank you.
I hope you're safe in Australia too, and people in different areas.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for making time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.